Hello again, everyone. This is Bob Martin, the RCSubGuy with the Drydocks.com, and I have to show you today one of the smallest RC submarines I have ever had the pleasure of working on. I'm going to take a look at that in a moment. What we have before us is a 1/144 scale Russian Kilo class submarine, diesel electric submarine, certainly one of the more populous boats that the Russian Navy put out during the Cold War. This kit is based off of the plastic model kit. So this is a conversion that was originally put together by none other than David Merriman III, one of the foremost experts in RC submarines for the last couple of decades. This is also featuring one of his watertight cylinders, a 2-inch diameter watertight cylinder that is basically a low pressure blower system that just pulls air from the surface and displaces it on the inside. We have a 6-channel low-frequency radio that's powering everything. All in all, it's pretty simple of a setup, but also exceptionally complicated when you think about everything that needs to go into an operational submarine in a little tiny package that is probably like 18 inches in overall length. Let's take a closer look. So, this is actually one of the coolest setups that I've seen for access. So the sail comes off magnetically. There's a little magnet in there, and you can see that right there. And there's also a bolt, and that'll come in handy or important a little bit later on. Now you just kind of slide things forward, and this comes right off. Here's our upper hull, and you can see the linkages because this has fully operational forward dive planes, of all things. Pretty awesome. Set this aside. Now we've got our rear linkages. We got dive planes, and then underneath the rudder. So the Kilo has a single, pretty largish rudder underneath the bottom of the boat. You can see that right there. And one of the tiniest, teensy tiniest propellers that you'll see on an RC submarine is probably like a 1/2 inch in diameter. Just a little bit of flotation foam and everything in there. Surprisingly, this kit, especially with these bulkheads, these resin bulkheads, is pretty rigid. And the fitment is really good. So you can just see this little tab that he put on the back. A little piece of brass rod, and that just slips under the back. And then this drops down. And once it's tightened, you can see that is just like a razor, seam between the upper and lower hulls. It's absolutely gorgeous and a testament to Dave's abilities to put these things together. So even though this is a tiny watertight cylinder, it is a squishy fit inside. So before we get there, let's take a look at this thing. We're going to start at the back. We've got a single shaft output. And then we've got 3 servo outputs. We're going to have rudder, dive planes, and forward dive planes. We've got our receiver antenna coming out there, and there's those 3 servos I just referenced a little bit earlier on. ADF2 is actually an electronic pitch controller with a built-in fail-safe functionality. So this will actually blow your ballast tank in the case of a loss of signal event. We got our receiver right there. And then the LiPo guard also monitors battery voltage, and that'll handle your ballast system in the case of a low voltage situation as well. Got a 10 amp electronic speed controller that also provides power to the receiver. And then in the front here, we've got our ballast servo, and that actuates the linkages. So you've got a vent in the top that lets all the air out. And then in the bottom is where the water enters and leaves the watertight cylinder ballast tank. And then in the forward compartment, a 7.4 volts lithium polymer battery pack and a waterproof toggle switch to turn everything on and off. So this is all completely self-contained. I could actually just flip it on right now and it would be working. You can test it. To get everything set up, there's a little bit of a process to it, but it is not too bad, and certainly you'll get quick at it after a while. So you want to grab these little brass bent tubes, and you're going to tuck those into the hull as you drop it in place. And we're going to push it back until you get that dog bone lined up with the output shaft of the cylinder, just like that. So the hoses are tucked down, the magnetic linkages just literally jumped onto their respective outputs. The hoses are connected, make sure that those are all connected and ready to go. Now originally I believe Dave used these hooks to use elastic bands to hold everything down, but if you look in the front, actually the hull itself is trapping this down, and once you get the upper hull on, this can't move. So you probably don't need an elastic band on there, but you could certainly use one if you wanted to. Now this is probably the biggest pain of the situation. We're going to take our receiver antenna and kind of tuck it in here, and what you want to do is, or what I do, is just wrap them around these hooks, and this is just going to stop it from falling out into the seam of the boat and getting trapped and have you fight and get frustrated and all of that stuff. So we're just going to tuck these wires right down underneath there. Now they can't get trapped at all. Wrapping it around these little hooks. There we go. We can even tuck it underneath here. The actual path you take doesn't really make any difference. Just make sure it doesn't get trapped by anything and it doesn't, you know, hit the dog bone in the back, the drive shaft. That would certainly not be a good thing. Now what we're going to do is take our little mast here and we're just going to push this into the intake. And it's sticking right out the top, right? And we're going to slip this down, put our little tab in. Our magnetic linkage for our forward dive planes just locked in. You can see that on the bottom right there. And we're just going to drop this down nice and easy. All right, so yeah, the top just kind of drops down in place. And now you've got this screw, this stainless bolt in the top. We're just going to tighten that down, and that's going to lock down our upper hull onto the lower hull. And that done, we're just going to feed this mast through the little hole right there. And now you're done. So everything is all put together. The top's on. It'd be ready to go. But let's take a look at everything functional on the inside of the boat. Check out all the linkages and the drivetrain. Make sure it's working before we go to the pond. So let's walk through the functions of the boat one at a time. We're going to start with the transmitter. I want to show you how we got the channel set up so the new owner knows where everything goes. We've got rudder control, right stick, horizontal. The forward dive planes is the vertical on the right there. On the other side, we've got our throttle. And this doesn't do anything. Channel 4 doesn't do anything. And then on the back, we've got channel 5 is our ballast tank. You push down to go down, so vent the tank, and you push up to blow ballast, to surface the boat. And then on the back, you push down for the stern plane override, and that'll push the stern up and the nose down, so down to go down, up to go up. Let's see it all as it's working. We got our rudder operational in the bottom there. We've got our forward dive plane, and you can just see those working here. That connects to that linkage and moves the dive planes up in the front. On the other side, we've got our throttle, forward and reverse. And we've got our ballast system, dive. You can see that little vent open up on the inside there. And surface, and we should hear the pump kick on. So that's pulling air through that mast. So in order for the boat to surface, This does need to be above, but the boat is actually ballasted positively. So in a worst case scenario, all you do is take your hands off the control, boat floats up to the surface, and then you can blow your ballast. And then the last thing, I'll show you that stern plane override in the back there, up, down, up and down, and the automatic pitch controller, moving those dive planes in an effort to keep the boat on a perfectly level keel, unless you're obviously commanding it to do otherwise. So that is all the functions of the boat, and certainly I'm sure there's a fair number of you that have sat through this in the hopes of being able to see this in the pool, and we're not going to disappoint you. We did have it in the pool yesterday, and I'm happy to say it performed absolutely beautifully. We'll get some footage on the water and under the water so you can take a look at it. General performance characteristics, I was super impressed with the turning radius of the boat. It has a pretty big rudder, even though there's only one of them situated sort of below the center line of the boat. It'll turn about itself probably in like a 5 or 6 foot diameter circle, which is absolutely perfect for a swimming pool. This boat is obviously very small. I would not recommend it for open water performance. You know, ponds and lakes, it'd be easy to lose sight of it in that dark water, and it'll just bob around, you know, like a cork. It's a small boat, but in the swimming pool, it'll be a ton of fun because it's very maneuverable. You shouldn't get stuck too easily. Really good response to pitch inputs as well. Again, surprising considering the location of dive planes forward of that propeller. So you do need a little bit of forward movement before they'll come into play, but once you get going, which doesn't take long at all in a boat this size, they kick in and you got really amazing control. Underneath the water, it moves about just like a fish. It's very, very easy to control. The automatic pitch controller keeps it on a nice level keel as you're operating around. You can elect to drive it in a very sedate manner at low speeds, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Or if you're a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, you can kick in that throttle, get it going, and it's a ton of fun. It'll jump around in the water without any problem whatsoever. So a ton of fun to drive. Certainly a one-handed launch, retrieval, carry, and transport situation. It is not going to take up a lot of room, and it is painted so beautifully that it would look absolutely gorgeous out on display anywhere. You can put it on your desk. You know, you don't need a whole entertainment center to display it. So with that, that is an overview of this 1/144th scale Russian Kilo class submarine. Repaired, refurbished, and upgraded by your friends at the Nautilus Drydocks, originally built by His Majesty David Merriman III. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe this video. It helps us out here a lot. If you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. You can post down below in the comments section, but if you want to reply quick, please hit me up by email, bob@nautilusdrydocks.com. I would love to hear from you. And with that, I am Bob Martin, the RCSubGuy with the nautilusdrydocks.com. We're going to leave you with that. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.